Hi, and welcome to Dream, Design, Deploy, all in XR with Byldr. Today's webinar will be about 30 minutes, and it's brought to you by Radiant in partnership with Byldr. My name is Josh DuPont, and I'm a marketing specialist with Radiant, and I'll be your host. I'd like to thank our audience for taking the time out of their day today, and of course, to our guest speakers. Okay, we have a lot of ground to cover, so let's go ahead and get moving. Just our agenda today, we'll do a brief introduction with Sean and Surya. We'll get into the Fireside chat. We'll see a demo, and we'll do a live Q&A at the end. Oh, if you would like to participate in a live Q&A, you can use the chat function. Just put your questions in there, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. Okay, let's move on. All right, Sean is the CTO of Inflection Point developers of the Byldr XR app development platform. And Surya is the director of AR/VR digital media at Radiant Digital. All right, so what is Byldr? Let's watch a short video to learn more. Sean, can you share that video for us now?
Yes, absolutely. I'll just say one quick sentence. Byldr is an XR app creation platform. It's the ability to create apps in your headset for VR and AR applications. So with that quick introduction, I'll show a video because videos are worth 1,000 pictures and a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? All right, so 1 second here. Okay, I assume you can see my video?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay.
Great, thanks. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the conversation with Surya and Sean.
Great. Josh, thank you very much for that quick introduction. Sean, welcome. It's really nice to have you with us. The last few months of working with Byldr, going through the ropes, learning how to build XR applications has been really wonderful. I personally have enjoyed it, and so has my team. So welcome and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Surya. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor, and looking forward to the chat today.
Okay, great, awesome. So let's start. You said Byldr is an XR app development platform, and there are quite a few tools and technologies and platforms out there. Radiant is a app developer. The AR/VR team at Radiant that I head, we develop a lot of applications for training, marketing, visualization for our clients. we are constantly faced with challenges. So the technology landscape is continuously evolving. There are a lot of tools and technologies out there, and we are always constantly learning. So one of the key things is the limitations of each platform. Learning that takes quite a bit of time, and the clients want different platforms to be used, and so you need to go and learn those platforms, understand what's possible and what is not. And that's kind of what we face as one of the challenges in developing XR applications. So can you shed some light on other challenges that the XR developers or enterprises face while developing XR applications?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up some of the challenges that you brought up. I think a lot of it has to do with just how new this industry is. When you're in it, it feels like it's been around forever. But if you look back in time, the HoloLens was first announced in 2015, and HoloLens 1 was first made available 2016. That's only 5 years ago. We're already on the HoloLens 2. If you think about ARKit, AR Core, that was only in 2017 that they were released. So this is all extremely new technology in a very fast-moving industry. And I think because of that, one of the great challenges that enterprise has is, number one, there's this big promise that XR technology is going to really reduce costs, increase value, make things more efficient. But before investing a lot of time and effort into building these solutions, you first have to prove the concept, right? You first have to come up with a prototype or come up with even a visual demo. And even creating these visual demos and these early prototypes, even to just showcase your idea or to communicate your idea, is extremely challenging right now because of the tools and because of really the lack of enough people in this industry. It causes development time to go way up. Development is very expensive. And so there needs to be kind of a lowering of the barrier. And so, we see that as being a major challenge right now. And we see Byldr as, one way to really, reduce those barriers and eliminate those challenges. And I would love to hear, even from your perspective, if that's a similar challenge that you face at Radiant.
Yes. So most of our clients, Sean, they are either prototyping and they are just about to get off the blocks. So having a development platform that accelerates this particular prototyping phase is really valuable. If you can just get something for people to use and experience in a few minutes rather than weeks or months, that is really valuable, because people can start experiencing XR applications and then make decisions on investing more in these kind of technologies. So it really makes sense, Sean. Thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next question that I wanted to ask you was, yeah, we already talked about tools and technologies, right? So we use Unity and Unreal extensively. We have now been dabbling with web AR, and you go with platforms like 3.js or AR.js, and there are other platforms that are available. There are native development platforms like AR Core and ARKit, hardware, hand tracking, so many technologies out there. And now it's quite difficult for people to kind of understand everything and put things together. So how is Byldr different? I mean, how do you tackle all these technologies? What makes Byldr very different?
Yeah, so one of the things that we are trying to achieve with Byldr, as I mentioned previously, is really lowering the barrier. So there's several different pillars that we see that allow Byldr to stand apart from what's currently out there. One of them is no code. So we wanted Byldr to be a no code platform so that anyone can dive in and start hooking up actions and triggers, and they can start placing their 3D models, placing music and audio, with their hands, without having to write a single line of code. The other big pillar is there's actually no computer that you program this on or that you create the program on. You actually do it in the headset. So whether it's in the AR headset like the HoloLens or an Oculus Quest, you're actually in your headset creating these so that you can visualize what you're building. So those are some of the key differences that Byldr sets aside. And as you mentioned earlier, with all these different platforms and all of these different kind of the industry evolving and the technology changing so fast, right now, if you want to develop an AR or VR application, you've got to kind of grapple with all of the different APIs and the SDKs. And so, by Byldr being a no-code platform, we wanted to make it where you build it once on any platform and it'll work on all of our supported platforms without you having to do anything or upgrade to SDK or anything. So those are some of the pillars that we see sets Byldr apart from some of the other app creation platforms.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, and I can ratify that. It truly has been revolutionary for our team. We have a bunch of different kinds of developers out there. Now, all of them can essentially, without having to worry too much about whether they are developing in C++ or C# or JavaScript or whatever that is, they can just work on one platform and really focus on being creative. And that was really, really interesting and revolutionary, so to speak, within our own team. So that's really good, Sean.
Yeah, and arguably, one of the more controversial changes is that there's no PC, as I mentioned earlier, right? You're actually developing in the headset, which I believe is good, but you're using your hands, you're using your body to move things around to set everything up. And yeah, it is a big paradigm shift, but one that we think is important.
Yes, so that leads me to my next question. I'm an XR developer. I've been developing for almost 15 years now. I develop on my PC. It's a rectangular screen. And then, I take whatever I build onto a device, right? So, and I test on the device and I give those apps to my customers and they test on those platforms. So there is a lot of iterative development that happens. But Byldr, you guys are saying that, you want to change the way this is developed, right? So this is traditionally how we have developed applications, develop it on a PC or a laptop and then test it on devices. So you have this a unique view called the human-centric creation. Can you explain a little bit more about this particular approach?
Yeah, part of our motivation for taking Byldr down this path was really my conviction that computing and the way we do it today is actually something that I would consider very sad. We're still, in what I might consider the very early kind of stone age of computing. Computers were invented, very, very recently, in time. You rewind 100 years ago and, nobody was using computers, right? And so, unfortunately, we're at the stage now where everyone is kind of sitting in front of what how you described it, just a rectangular screen. We've got rectangular screens everywhere and we're hunched over on our computers. We're typing with keyboards or, we're doing this with our fingers and it's very inhuman, right? But I believe that with mixed reality technologies like AR and VR, computing is finally becoming more human again. And it's finally coming out. We're bringing the digital world, breaking it away from the screen and bringing it into our environment. And I see Byldr as kind of a huge milestone in that journey to bring computing out from the screens and into our physical worlds, because that's really, how we're meant to live. Right. So just like you're building a house using, hammers and climbing up, or you're building a fence or anything, in the same way with applications, you're now using your hands, with hand tracking, you're grabbing your assets, you're putting them where they need to be, you're rotating them around, you're able to visualize in real time the size of things and how it works. And you don't have to, like you said, you don't have to worry about iterations, building on a computer, testing on device, building on a computer, testing on device. You just build it directly on the device, skip the computer, and anything you build directly on the device, you know is already going to work on the device. It's not going to be like, oh, this was compatible on my computer, but now that I've built it to the Quest or the HoloLens, oh, this SDK didn't actually work on the device. You know, it already works because you're actually building it on the device. And I would love to hear from your perspective, you know, if we were to cut out those iterations and build directly on the device, you know, how does that make you feel? Or, you know, do you see that being a challenge for some of your developers to really kind of reach out their hands and, you know, be more active and like, hey, stand up, start building an app, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, you know, well said. The what we have seen is there is always a gap in visualization, right? So you've got different kinds of people working on these kind of projects. Somebody's got the vision, somebody is executing, and somebody is delivering, somebody else is using. Now, you know, you um, uh, want all of them to understand what the vision is and quickly do it. But when you move from a PC to a device and back and forth, I mean, it takes a lot of iterations, and that cutting that one out is really has been beneficial. And my team has really seen the value of doing this, and that's pretty unique. To that effect, you know, I wanted to talk about some of the complexities of developing applications on, you know, XR applications on various platforms. What I've seen is, you know, with our own team, we have UI, UX designers, subject matter experts. Say if you're building training modules, we are looking at instructional designers. We have 3D artists, we have programmers, testers, and finally the user. You know, all of them, they have to come together. We are using various tools. You know, UI UX designers use storyboard, subject matter experts and instructional designers use different kinds of platforms, and ultimately artists develop it on content development platforms, and all of them need to bring it together, and the programmer is the guy who brings it together and develop it, and then again give it to all these guys to kind of visualize whether what they have put together is good or not, right? So um, I understand that Byldr has a great solution for this particular problem, and you know, it's the XR collaboration utility. So can you shed more light on this?
Yeah, exactly. You know, the last thing that we want technology to do is to isolate ourselves, right? And sometimes, you know, it's a little bit worrisome because you see technology heading down a certain direction. You're like, oh, that's looking very dystopian, right? But we believe that mixed reality is ultimately best when it's a social experience, when it's a collaborative experience, which is why we prioritize of all the thousands of features that we could have put into Byldr, you know, among the very first was multi-user and collaboration. Because we do feel that's important. And exactly for the reasons that you were mentioning, Surya, being able to have a designer go in and say, hey, I want this here, and let's put this exhibit right over here, even if it's just a sphere or a cube as a placeholder, right? Or maybe they're importing a drawing that they had done, a sketch earlier, they can put it all around. And then you have somebody else go into that same build, maybe a 3D artist, and they design the actual model, they put it there, they can improve on it. And then you could even have not only this happen sequentially, but then in real time, you can have a whole bunch of people together. And a manager might say, oh, actually, I don't like that there. Let's put that here. Or, hey, can we add this animation? What about some background music? And the developer in real time can import some background music. And you can actually collaborate on building the experience. And not only collaborate while building the experience, but the application that you finally build and deploy can also be a multi-user application. So, you know, 3D model viewer or a multi-user training application. And so that's really, it is a core pillar of where, you know, I believe that this technology needs to head, because ultimately, if it's just an isolating experience and it's just you and a VR headset and nobody else can see what you're doing, or an AR headset, that's a very lonely experience. It's not something you can easily share. And so I'm personally very excited about the collaboration and the ability to bring in multiple people together in the same scene. What's even more amazing is, yeah, you can have people in the same room together collaborating, But
Right.
in this day and age with COVID, and the post-COVID world, we know that's not always the way the world's heading. And so we also have remote collaboration as well. So somebody can be in Japan, somebody else can be in Canada, and somebody else in the UK, and all in the same virtual room collaborating on developing an app together, which I think is pretty cool.
Yes, yeah, that's truly I mean has been a great experience for us as well. So we've got developers across the globe, and all of them collaborating on Builder and getting an app. So we did a test, by the way, having developed an application on a PC to having developed the same application with the entire team together on Builder, and it was phenomenal. I mean, what used to take us a few weeks now took us a few hours to get done, and that was really great to see. Okay, awesome. So I think we've got a big audience here, and without no further ado, I think we should get into a demo. I guess you have a demo of how quickly we can build a training application. Is that what?
Yeah, and not to scare people, but normally, if you're wanting to build a training application from scratch, you can expect to spend, a few weeks, maybe sometimes a few months, or at the earliest a few days. But I won't make everyone suffer through watching me painstakingly create a training app over a few days. I promise it won't even be a few hours. So this the demo that I'm about to show will be kind of the beginnings of putting a training application together. And you can see kind of how fast we can quickly put this together. So let me go ahead and get that video lined up here. I'll share my screen. Okay, you can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the lobby of Byldr. So in Byldr, we call our apps builds, B-Y-L-D. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new build. I'll call it robotic arm, because I'm going to do a technician maintenance training application for a solar cell manufacturing line. So in our create menu, you can see here, there's a wide variety of things that you can create. You can also import your own images and your own 3D models, as well as finding other 3D models from places like Sketchfab for inspiration. So let's go ahead and put in a backdrop in here, just to give some context to the experience. I'm also going to go ahead and import a 3D model that I had previously uploaded to our Byldr web portal. So you can see here, let's go ahead and give that a few moments to import. Boom. So you can see, as I mentioned earlier, you literally just grab the models that you import, the content, with your hands. You can use two hands to rotate them. You can place them. You can resize them perfectly in position. You can barely get a feel when developing on a PC for where something should be, how far away it should be from the user, how large it should be. But in VR, you can in real time position things where they need to be. You can bring them close to you as well. And you see here, as with this image, I can reach out and I can grab and literally resize it or rotate it. Or I can use the laser beams coming out of my hands, the hand rays, to manipulate stuff at a distance as well. So it's very, very intuitive. It's got a really smooth user interface to be able to import things in. Let's go ahead and put in some instructions here for the technician training. So I'm going to put in some instructions. I'll place it where I think it looks comfortable. And we'll go ahead and just reposition this slightly and put in some additional instructions as well. So with this kind of a training, a technician can come in without the hazards of being next to a real manufacturing plant with real moving robotic arms. They can learn about the system, they can study, you can create interactive experiences and really see how the whole thing operates. One other thing that Byldr supports, which is I think really important, especially when creating training experiences, is the support for animations, so that you can actually see, let's say if you're working on any physical equipment, you can see it come to life. A user or a builder who's building an app can build and record their own animations, or you can also import animations that your 3D artist may have embedded in the 3D model. So you can see here, I'm playing the animation. You can see the robotic arms are picking and placing the solar cells. And through this way, I can line up and trigger dozens or even hundreds of animations for every step of the training. And I can have trainees kind of toggle through different training scenarios to learn about the maintenance of the equipment. So this was a very, very quick example of how I quickly threw together something like this in a mere matter of minutes, something that would have taken a lot longer had you done in a different program. Next, I want to just quickly showcase, this was a VR application, but I also want to showcase a HoloLens 2 application built in Byldr. This is already built, a real estate showroom application, just to give you a flavor for what a build looks like in VR you saw previously, and also in AR. You can see here I've got some 3D maps on the table. This is actually a Bing Maps SDK, which is already part of Byldr. You can see here some simple triggers that I set up. I was able to use a voice command to open up the interior view of the building that we are highlighting in this showcase experience. You can see I can also reach out my hand and I can trigger this button over here, which hides those images. So a builder can set up some very simple actions, triggers, animations, and a whole slew of other features. So yeah, just really wanted to showcase this briefly, just to give you a flavor for what Byldr is able to do in a very short period of time. And of course, yeah, welcome to hear some of your thoughts based on what you saw, and if you have any questions about any specific capabilities.
Yes. So one of the things is that most of our clients who are entering into the prototyping phase and just getting their hands dirty with XR, start off with mobile phones. Developing augmented reality applications for mobile phones, and then slowly scale their way up to devices. So just wanted to know all the various platforms that you can support deployment on.
Yeah, exactly. So right now we support AR and VR. So for VR, we support Oculus Quest 1 and Oculus Quest 2. And then for AR, we support the HoloLens 2. On our roadmap, we also have iOS and Android, as well as other VR headsets such as the Vive Focus 3 and beyond. One thing I should note is when you build your app on the Oculus Quest 2, it will automatically work on the HoloLens 2 and vice versa. If you build an app for a HoloLens 2, it'll automatically work on the Oculus Quest 2. So even internally, we don't have, because of the high price of the HoloLens 2, all of our developers don't have access to that. But our developers will oftentimes build an app on their Oculus Quest 2, and it'll automatically work on the HoloLens 2. So that's something that we use as well. But yeah, we're pretty excited about the roadmap, especially since OpenXR is a standard that's going to be increasingly adopted by the industry. We see that as potentially something that will help achieve a broad cross-platform support sooner than what's on our roadmap. So that's something coming as well. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on OpenXR and where you see that going as well.
Yeah. So it just brings to my memory that earlier we used to talk about a standard called VRPN when augmented reality was not in the picture, in the fray, and most of the VR devices at that point in time used to kind of subscribe to that architecture and standard. So it'll be interesting really to see how manufacturers really subscribe to this standard and make all devices really available to everybody. So that's really great. So we are nearly at the end of our session here. So I think let's quickly wrap up with, what are the various benefits of Byldr, if you can just summarize. So we have talked about it through the whole session, but if you can just summarize, that will be really interesting for the audience.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to drastically lowering the barriers to creation. It's really opening up the building of XR applications beyond developers and programmers and making it accessible to anyone. So designers can go in and put together a prototype. Executives can go in, put together an idea or a presentation. And even developers, they can go in and be like, hey, I don't want to deal with coding right now. I just want to go and hook up my logic without having to code anything and just putting in. And we really see that as a way to speed up development a lot and reduce costs a lot across the board, which is really our goal in order for us to realize this ubiquitous AR future, this ubiquitous mixed reality future that holds such a great promise. In order to achieve that vision, the barriers have to come down a lot. The speed of app creation has to become much faster. And of course, costs have to come down quite a bit. And so we're very excited about those and excited about Byldr continuing to knock down those barriers as it matures.
Great. Awesome, Sean. So thank you very much for, all of explaining about Byldr and, all of the demos that you did. Really interesting for people to see, I'm sure. So with from a Radiant standpoint, the partnership with Byldr has been very exciting. The team has really warmed up to developing applications on Byldr and quickly rolling prototypes out. I mean, that's been phenomenal for us just to see quickly iterate and get different kinds of prototypes rolling and having a lot of people collaborate in the development cycle. So we look forward to a lot more from Byldr. And it's really exciting to partner with you guys. So with that, I hand it over to Josh. Josh, do we have questions from the audience?
Yeah, that really was a great and engaging conversation. Thank you both. So yeah, in the sake of time management, let's go ahead and move on to this live Q&A. If you have a question for one of our guest experts, please just put them in the chat function now, and we'll get to as many of them as time allows. I see that we've already got a couple of them in here. So I'll go ahead and read this first one, and then you guys can answer it. Can we save time by having our training staff build the POC ourselves? And how quickly can my team familiarize themselves with Byldr?
Yeah, so the answer to the first question is absolutely yes, and that's really the intention behind something like Byldr. As far as familiarizing yourself with it, it's literally just downloading the application to your headset, whether it's the Oculus Quest or the HoloLens 2. We do have training and tutorials on our website as well, quick start guide, but it's pretty self-explanatory, and you can go in and start building right away. And then, of course, people like Surya, fantastic, app creation services that are offered, and there's a variety of ways to kind of expand beyond that as well.
All right, thank you. So there's another question that just came in. It says, how are steps-based procedures created?
Yeah, so steps-based procedures are created through our system of actions and triggers. So you can set up multiple actions. Let's say an action might be to go to another scene, or an action might be to start a new animation. And then triggers are things that you apply to buttons or voice commands or any number of triggers where, let's say, you can press a next button, which will trigger the next animation, or you trigger the go to the espresso brewing training scene, and then it'll go to a different scene. And so through actions and triggers, you can use physical interaction, or you can use voice interaction, or even other triggers, such as the ending of an animation might trigger another action or another animation. You can chain those together to develop these step-based training, or really any application.
You can also do recordings, right? So you can record a sequence of events. So that's something pretty interesting.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. The recording is something that, to be honest, I don't even know how somebody would do that in an editor very efficiently. But if you have, going back to the espresso example, if you have a 3D model of a an espresso handle and you've got a machine, you can actually record yourself putting the handle there. You can record a step for pouring the espresso into the cup. You can record all of those steps with your hands, right? And then allow somebody else to play those steps as they're learning it. How you would do that in a 2D flat screen environment would be far more challenging and far more time consuming.
Yeah, I wanted to just weigh in on that, Sean. That feature brings in lot smoother animations and lot more realistic animations into the frame, because if you want to do that on a keyframe using a animation tool, that will take a lot of time for people to perfect. But here you're using your hands and actually performing those actions and recording it. That's brilliant.
All right, let's get to a couple more questions here because there's a few of them in the chat. The next question is going to be, what is the polygon texture file limitations?
So really the limitations are based on each device. So the good news is that as devices get more powerful, like when we saw the Oculus Quest 2 released, suddenly Byldr's performance and capabilities and polygon limitations jumped significantly just because of a different device, even though the application was exactly the same. I believe right now it does depend on a few things like the shaders that you're running and the animations. But I think we're roughly around 200,000 or 300,000 polygons for the HoloLens, and maybe about double that for the Oculus Quest in order to stay within that kind of maximum frame rate. Of course, you can go beyond that. You can put in 1 million polygons, but then you'll probably see a drop in frame rate, which generally is not recommended.
But you're working on the remote rendering feature, which will really eliminate everything here, right? All the limitations are going to be eliminated.
Yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, on our roadmap, we've got remote rendering or cloud rendering. So if somebody wanted to bring in a giant Revit model of a building, a skyscraper with every little thread of every bolt, kind of detailed out, that's totally possible with cloud-based rendering. It streams it right to your headset. So that's something that we're pretty excited about in the future. But yes, yeah, right now, when you're designing 3D models and applications, think about your 3D models running on a mobile device, which is what the HoloLens and the Oculus Quest is.
Right. The next question is going to be, can we import videos and YouTube URLs as an environment?
That is on our roadmap, but right now, videos and YouTube videos are not supported within Byldr yet.
Okay. And the next question says, how do I get a trial version?
So you can actually go directly to our website. I think we may have that information sent out later, but it is www.byldr.app. And if you go onto our website, you can sign up for a free trial right there on our website. You can also find, if you're on Oculus Quest, you can find us on App Labs. And then if you're on the HoloLens 2, you can also find us on the Windows Store, the Microsoft Store as well.
Well, that's great. And in what sectors has Byldr been applied?
So Byldr's been applied to the oil and gas sector, been used extensively there. Also the medical sector as well, architecture and real estate, and a few other enterprise sectors as well.
All right, that's great. Let's go ahead and end there just to stay on time management here. I want to thank everybody in our audience for taking the time out of their day today, and of course to thank our guest speakers, Sean and Surya. We really appreciate the great conversation. You guys have any?
Thank you very much, Josh. Thank you, Surya.
Thank you.
And a copy of this recording will be on our website. It's listed on the screen. All right, thank you.